well, it was much more longer than 2 years of holiday of school. But Jules Verne was one of my favorite books when I was small. So Jules Verne and the 2 years of vacation was something that I always dreamt of as a girl. And I said, well, if that would be possible under the communist regime not to go to school, this is definitely something that I would push my mother to do. But that was not possible. When I had children, by law, by that time, it was not like everybody can do it, hey, 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 but there were spaces in the law which actually allowed me to do it. So I decided that I will give it a try. The first reason was definitely a practical reason for the family. It saved me time. It gave me much more time to be with my children. And it gave me the time to be with my children the way I wanted, not just to be the service person and the taxi driver, but actually to spend the time with the child or with all the children, because they were of different age. There are 7 years difference between my oldest son and my twins. First, I have 2 boys and the twins are girls. So I have both genders and both different ages. And I decided that this is what actually I want to try, and what I would like my children to try with me. So apart from actually teaching my children, at the time when we started, I was teaching just 2 because the girls were too small. They were not even yet in the kindergarten. The Czech school system starts at the age of 5 when we have a compulsory kindergarten year, and the school system starts from the age of 6. So the first level is from 6 to 11, and the second level is from 11 to 16, and that is compulsory education. So at the age of 16 you can finish, you can go to work, or you can continue on to gymnasium for 4 years and then university, or any kind of middle school or high school that we call it. So I said, okay, let's try it with the 2 sons, and the girls were too small. So at the time when I started, I had 2 pupils and 2 small children at home. And after a few years, I managed to persuade 1 or 2 students whom I was teaching anthropology of education. And together we started a small project. It was not even a postdoc. It was a project which I was telling Carlos was funded, or we have projects which are small, funded by the university. But if you involve PhD or master students, you get some small money for publications. So the reward is that the students can have articles published, and you get money for translation, perhaps into English or some kind of help, but you don't get any reward, or you don't get any money or cash for doing your research. You just get money for publications. So this is what we did together with a few students over the 5 years. And what I want to present you from now on will be basically the results of my research, together with my experience as a homeschooler, home teacher, and then something that I will leave out. You are free to ask in the end of the lecture. So here's some methodology. Really the whole project lasted from 2009, when my son started to go to school, until 2017, when I finished and I said, okay, now I need to publish the book, and I will show you that the book was published last year. It will be at the end of the lecture. And this is the mix of the methods that I have actually used. I have done observations, not only in my family, obviously, but also by the time, and you are the proof of this, when you start such a thing as homeschooling, you get to know people who do the same thing. So when you actually go to their families, you can see different methods of learning, different methods of teaching. You can observe, you can discuss and converse with the people, and you get information very naturally, like a snowball method that you ask, do you know somebody who is homeschooling? They recommend me, then we get together, and then we can actually share information. Then I have done interviews. I'm very happy that I could include children, which usually you don't get included. Usually you have interviews with mothers, the fathers, and perhaps the officials. But I was fortunate to have also some children voices involved, not only the small ones, but also the older children. The older children. We now have in Czech the generation of homeschoolers who are already at the university level. So it is because it started unofficially in 1991, and now it's 2020. So you see that there is quite a long gap, and the few families that have started it already, they have adult children who have children themselves. So we have small group, that is very small group, the starters, but we still have some data from like 35-year-old homeschoolers who were living in the Czech Republic and being educated in the Czech Republic. Then we did public data analysis and political statement analysis. This is what I did with my students, that we have collected and we have monitored for 3 years the 4 public major forums where the homeschoolers are discussing their opinions and their ideas. So we were checking the public media, social media and other discussion, how the public views it, what they think about it. And we have chosen 2 closed forums, which is where you have to gain access. First you have to ask people and then they let you in. And they are usually frequented by the homeschoolers only. And then we have chosen to contrast it with 2 public forums where anybody can say anything. So naturally you would expect that there are more anti-homeschooling ideas in the other ones than in the first ones. So that was the data analysis. And the political statement analysis, we have monitored 3 years, which were central to passing the law of homeschooling in the Czech Parliament. So we got all the debates, which were public. They are available, I think, all over the world, where you have democracy, that in the government you have a speech of various members of parliament, what they actually think about homeschooling, before they are going to vote on any kind of law. So all the debates that were related to homeschooling debate, we analyzed together with my students in the political statement analysis. And then, of course, as we have already said, I did quite a lot of literature analysis, especially from abroad, because in the Czech context there was very little written about this. So that is the data that went into my study. And now, how or what did I actually find out? So, if we have such a super duper school system in the Czech Republic, which is for free, why would you actually want to send a child or take a child out of the system and educate him or her at home, right? If you send a child to school, you have a free babysitter. And the free babysitter is super because you have, if you are clever enough, from 7 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening, free day. So you can do whatever you want when your child is in the institution. In Czech it works perfectly and 95% of the population does it. Not because they necessarily think about it, but because it's tradition, right? I will come to that. That one thing is to do it because it's usually done, and the second is that you really think it's good and you do it, that you think about it. So, nevertheless, we still have homeschoolers, but very